Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. JACALYN. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. JACALYN at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. JACALYN KERBECK, and today's show is the Business Talk Show. It's our 95th edition, and it's a special day here on our platform, a special day here for me as well, because my co-host, friend, colleague, and mentor is back. Mr. CINI is back. That's right. Let's bring him out right away. Welcome, Al.
Dr. JACALYN, it's such a relief to be back. Thank you for welcoming me back.
Well, you certainly have been missed, Al. You are a big part of our platform. And for people who don't know and they're watching us for the first time or listening for the first time, Al's been with me since the very beginning, when it was basically two cans in a string, and then a radio show, and then a TV show on Zoom. And now we have 26, 29 shows every week. So thank you, Al. And I'm so glad that you are here and up in center in front to welcome our guest. She's a very special woman. Before we bring her out, I want to spotlight you. And people are wondering, what does CINI do in addition to being a co-host here and one of our expert talking heads and one of our certified elevated listeners? What's Al doing off of USA Global TV and Radio?
That's a great question. And now that I'm back not only here, but I'm back in a couple of other capacities too. I, with a bunch of other great people, I deliver a service called the Brand and Culture Alignment Toolkit, the purpose of which is to align the members of an organization with the purpose they serve. And the result of it is to get people more involved in the work they do and to use their initiative and their intrinsic motivation to make a difference in the community they serve. So that's the Brand and Culture Alignment Toolkit. I also co-host a couple of programs on RVN Television. That's rvntelevision.com, CEO Chat, and The Advocates. In addition to the work that I do with Dr. JACALYN, it's an opportunity to get the word out on the importance of motivating people in accomplishing things. And also, I have to tell you, Dr. JACALYN, while I was gone, I watched your programs, a lot of the programs, and you have built quite a community. I'm happy to be back, but honestly, you didn't miss me. You've got a lot of great co-hosts. You've got some terrific people that you're working with. You've really built something wonderful in USA Global TV, and for that, you were to be congratulated.
Thank you, Al. You are too kind. And it has been quite a journey. Yesterday, I just decided, I went out for a walk and I came up with the idea of starting a game show for all of the elevated listeners for a 15-week show to compete against each other for fabulous prizes and gifts. So I'm just grateful. You are a big part of this platform, and our other team members are contributing. And our guests are incredible. In fact, Robert J. Moore has been on our program, this program as well as others. He's also featured in my new book, Adversity to Awesome. And he's referred his mentee here today. And I'm really excited to bring her out. And the topic is something that if you've ever been in a position where you needed to ask someone for something, or you were in a sales capacity or marketing, you come upon this opportunity to connect with someone. And that can be called prospecting. It can be called a nightmare. It can be called a lot of different things. But so many people are afraid of prospecting, and people think to themselves, I don't want that rejection. So people have this fear. So as you know, Al, we talk to business owners all the time, and people are always looking for new ways to grow their market share, to increase the number of customers they have and the tenure. So when we think about prospecting, we're going to get some expert advice from our guest today.
Definitely. And, I can't think of a more important topic to people who own run, manage businesses than the sales function and getting the most out of the sales operation, whatever that might be, whether you're a solopreneur or you're running a team or a company with 30 or 40 or 100 people in it, whether you're doing the selling or somebody else is doing the selling, managing that function and getting the kind of expert advice you need to make that function really sing for you is exactly what Nicole Attias does. So let's bring her out.
Yes, let's bring her out. She works with Prospect to Win. She's a YouTuber. She has an up and coming channel. So let's all go over and subscribe to her channel. I have the information here. We'll talk a little bit more about it. She also is an expert when it comes to cold calling, when it comes to sales, and a toolbox of opportunities for you to incorporate into your strategy, into your routine to grow your business. So let's welcome Nicole.
Great.
Hi, Nicole. Welcome.
Thank you. Hi, I'm so glad to be here.
Well, listen, I have a question right off the bat that was triggered by you in a little quick pre-interview conversation we had before we went on the air. You said that a lot of people think cold calling is dead, but it isn't.
That's right. It's very much alive. I think people just want to bypass it because they don't like doing it.
They don't like doing it. And because they're not doing it, they're not getting the results they need. And that's where you come in. Isn't that right?
Yeah. I think it's a combination of effort, right? You've got social media marketing, you've got emails, and the whole idea is to turn the cold call into something warm. That's the whole idea. So cold calls are not supposed to stay cold. And I think if people get their head around that, then it will be less painful to do.
That's great. I mean, I read your LinkedIn profile. Right off the bat, there are a lot of really great tips and suggestions there. And I know you've got a website. You're going to tell us all how to find you online. You give an awful lot away. But what people really need is what you sell, which is coaching to make people more effective at selling. You can do that for individuals or teams. Is that right?
Yeah, there's that aspect. And then we also run a cold call service. So there's two elements to the business. I don't want to make the calls. Here are the leads. We're going to push those. We're going to make the dials for you and get as many first appointments as possible. Mm-hmm. So I have a couple young people working with me, assisting with that. And then I want to hire Nicole to help our team do it better.
That's great. So from the point of view of a business owner who's using you to make those calls, mm-hmm. to a prospect, you would look like somebody who worked for my team, mm-hmm. and you would be the person selling on my behalf, not as you, but as one of us, essentially.
Correct. Like, this is Nicole calling from XYZ company, and then somebody else. This is Samantha calling from ABC. Okay. So that's exactly it.
Oh, okay. Now I want to ask a question about what's going on between your ears, because the big fear that people have about cold calling is that fear of rejection. Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't want to pick up the phone and call somebody they don't know because they're afraid that they'll be hung up on.
So what?
So what? So talk about that. In order for you to do what you do, you have to answer that question for yourself, don't you?
Yeah.
So what? Talk about that.
Well, I'm not going to lie. When I first started, it was daunting. I remember, being a teenager and like taking telemarketing jobs, like part-time jobs. And I remember thinking to myself, how on earth do people do this stuff? Now, it's because it's so repetitive and it's a long, drawn out process. But if you're calling from the point of view of, I'm going to call not to sell you, but simply to schedule a next step, to schedule an appointment, mm-hmm. then all that pressure goes down. And you don't want to give away everything at once, right?
Right. So your job then is with the cold call is to make an appointment for somebody on my team to do a follow-up call.
Correct.
To start moving them through the funnel to a close. That's the sales experience. And okay, now I got a bunch of questions. I mean, that sort of bubble up immediately. I guess the first question is, in order for you to be able to do what you need to do on my behalf, mm-hmm. I have to script something mm-hmm. that you can use to get the conversation started with a prospect that you call. And by the way, I want to mention on your profile, you specialize in B2B.
Yes.
We're not talking about selling people timeshares or brushes and vacuum cleaners. We're talking about building business relationships between vendors and suppliers who work together.
That's exactly it. That's
Yeah,
exactly
that's a little bit more cerebral and maybe sometimes a little bit more technical. So the first thing I have to do is boil down what I do into something you can use. Is that right?
Yeah, and what I always say to my clients is, all you need to do is educate me a little bit about your business, and maybe give 2 or 3 really strong bullet points to refer back to, because the last thing you want to do is look like you're reading from a piece of paper, A to Z, and you sound like a telemarketer, right? You don't want to sound like that. You want to be natural, and it takes a few calls to get used to it. And once you get used to it, you just, throw out the bullet points. And if you don't know how to answer something, bingo, schedule the meeting, right? You're not there to sell the business, right? You're there to schedule a meeting. Very different, 2 very different things.
Well, okay, now here are the practical and tactical parts of it. A burning question in my brain, because people always refer to this as a problem, is how do you get past the gatekeeper? How do you get past the person who answers the phone, who is not the person you want to talk to, but works for that person? How do you do that?
Make the gatekeeper feel important. Make them feel important. Make them feel like they are part of the decision-making process. Because a lot of times they feel like, they're being directed from above, and they're like, no, we can't take calls. We don't take outside calls. We don't take outside callers, right? You hear them say this sometimes. But other times, if you make them feel like they're part of the process, what if I were to email you and like copy, Sam Jones or the boss or whoever it is, and make them feel like, what? Their opinion counts. Sometimes that softens it. And then other times just go in as a cold caller, and I hate that. Go in as somebody, representing a company, and just say, look, I understand some are going to be yes and some are going to be no. And how much time do I really want to put into this, right? It's also about learning where to place your energy and time when you're doing call after call after call.
Right? So if you can make the administrative assistant if you can make the administrative assistant feel as though he or she is doing their boss a favor by connecting you with him or her, then they become part of the solution process rather than just somebody that has to defend their boss from a salesperson, which is
exactly it. That's exactly it, and it goes a long way.
Now, now I have another question for you, because first of all, that's a tremendously valuable service. And I'm excited that the people who are watching and listening are getting to know you, and later on they'll get to know how to reach you to hire you for this. Because everybody out there listening, they may hate to admit it, but they all have this problem. And the second phase of that problem is after you've successfully created a warm call for somebody, meaning it's going to lead to a meeting, you're also a coach. And one of the things I think a lot of business owners and salespeople even need to be coached on is, how do you take an opportunity from what you might give them and move it through the funnel to a close? Because a lot of people are no good at that. How do you, I'm somebody who, I give you a lead, you make the call, you get me an appointment, and then I drop the ball. What is it I'm doing wrong usually, and how do you fix that?
Well, a key element is staying in touch. So how I like to break it down is, after you've made that contact, what happens? What's the next step? As long as the prospect is willing to schedule a next step, that could be a follow-up call, that could be a meeting, that could be, sending information. Just, they have to have some sort of next step planned. The problem starts to happen when people get really excited. Oh, I got this amazing meeting with so-and-so. Well, so what? So what? You got this meeting. What are you going to do with it? A lot of it is follow-up. A lot of it is follow-up that people forget to do. They think, oh, so-and-so is going to get back to me. They're interested. They're going to never do that. Never do that.
Well, okay. So talk about your coaching skills and how how you work. What is it that's going wrong inside my head? And how do you work with me to overcome the fear that's probably blocking me from being successful?
Well, the first thing is, what point are you having an issue? Is it a detailed problem? Like, are you not good at, do you not have a good database? That could be a problem too. Do you not have a good CRM system that can prompt you to follow up? Are you set up properly? That's number one. Number two, what is stopping you? What's making you uncomfortable? Like, what kind of conversations are you having issues with? Is it overcoming objections? Is it you just don't want to make that first call? Is it, you don't want to follow up too much because you don't want to feel like you're bothering the other individual? Like, where is the issue? And then let's take steps to read the situation better.
Wow. Okay. In your experience, and I know how long have you been doing this?
Oh, I don't want to say a very long time. I've been doing this for different industries for like over 15 years.
Okay, different. Is there a specialty industry that you focus on in particular, or
not necessarily. I mean, I've done it for commercial real estate. I've done it for residential real estate, recruitment, cybersecurity. Recruitment's a big one, by the way. I have a lot of inquiries for recruiters because they're constantly making calls. But really, a wide variety, not limited to one, all B2B.
Not limited to one. Okay.
No.
I want to take a quick break here just to explain to everybody that they're watching and listening to the Business Talk Show on USA Global TV. Dr. JACALYN is reporting that she's having a technical difficulty, which is why I'm doing all the talking with our terrific guest here, Nicole Attias, who specializes in helping people open and close a sales cycle so that you can start making money right away rather than suffer through the pain and anguish of rejection and fear that most people do. And a little later on too in the program, Nicole, as we wrap, you're going to tell everybody how it is they can reach you.
Yes.
Now, I just asked you how long you've been doing this, and you said for a long time. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into this.
Sure. I was always fascinated with public speaking and training since my 20s. I've always been in sales. Since age 14, I started off in the retail world. I always found it really natural for me to walk into, different establishments and get a job as a teenager because I loved the interview process more than I loved the actual job, right? So I think part of it was my personality. And then just part of it was, developing skills through Toastmasters, public speaking, training. And then I had to somehow get in front of people. So I'm like, what am I going to do? So I taught myself to walk up and down office towers at the time. Like, we're talking like 20 years ago here. Okay. Walking up and down towers. And I found it, yes, it was tough. Yes, it was exhausting. But you know what? I got in the door and then I started to sell what I was doing. And then after some time passed, I got into, working for a management consulting firm. And I started to make cold calls virtually, working from home as a single mom. And everything around me has always been about getting in the door, hustling, and cold calling. So I got really good at it, and I started to understand, I started to read situations better, quicker over time.
So you're really comfortable walking into a room full of people and walking up to somebody and saying, "Hi, my name is Nicole. What's yours?" I mean, that's something you're good at.
It's something I'm good at, yes, but I also learned to read the audience. I mean, a big piece as well is I can feel if the audience is with me or not with me. Don't ask. I just know how to do this. I've been at it for a while. And if I know that they're engaged, I know it's going to be a great experience. If I feel that they're shifty or something's off or there's a missing link, then yes, I can present. Yes, I can, do all those things, but the connection might not be the same, right? It's all about building the right connections, and we can't force those connections. We just can't.
They have to happen organically. You have to put yourself in a position to create that connection, but you can't force the connection to happen.
That's right.
Okay. All right. So mechanically then, let's say that I'm a business owner and I'm trying to generate business and I've got a list of 50 names in front of me. And I've decided that on today, Tuesday, I'm going to start at 9 o'clock in the morning and I'm going to call these 50 names. And I see it as a drudge and I'm terrified to do it. And I really don't know what I'm going to say when I get somebody to pick up the phone, if I even do. But instead of that, I can take those 50 leads, let's call them, although I hate that word. I can take these 50 human beings who may be opportunities for me, which I don't like the word lead because it makes it sound like they're prey. And this is not preying on people. You know, you're doing them a favor because you've got something they need. They just don't know it yet. So I give those 50 names to you. And what do? How do you start?
Hi, this is Nicole from ABC Company. I'm just calling to reach out to find out if, you have any requirements for blah, 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 blah. And, if it's something as straightforward, for example, as office furniture, then they're going to say, yes, we have a need. No, we don't. It's very, very yes, no oriented. But if it's more complex, like consulting services or, where you have to break it down, then you wouldn't go in with that approach. You might go in to find out, well, first of all, am I reaching out to the right decision maker? That's number one. And then I would just, do the same thing. Hi, this is Nicole from ABC Company calling. I wanted to find out more about, and then have a few questions lined up for them that might relate to that product or service. And then just ask for the meeting. So I wanted to set up a meeting with you to see if I can share a little bit more about blah, 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 blah. That's what I would do, because you don't want to bombard them. You want to just keep it very clean, simple, and quick. People don't have a lot of time over the phone.
Okay, so if let's go with the office furniture example, because it's something I think everybody can relate to. It may be that the office furniture I sell is available through me at half the price somebody would pay somewhere else. It could be that I can save them money. Or it could be that this is specially designed office furniture that is ergonomically more comfortable for people who work in offices than somebody else's furniture. Now, part of what we do when we build our relationship is to get you started with what you need to say to confirm that what they're looking for is either something cheaper or something more comfortable.
Right.
So that you can connect with them on what it is they actually want, what it is they actually need.
And also, sorry, I was going to say, sorry to interrupt you.
No.
I was just going to say, even a preliminary question like, are you looking at moving? When is your expiry? Because that's a key element. When people move, they need furniture, typically, right? Right. Asking a question that leads to other things is less threatening, right?
Makes sense. Right. So that's another question then. There are people out there who are moving. I don't know who they are. Somebody's got to go. I guess somebody's job is to identify who owns businesses out there that might be in the middle of a move or a merger, some kind of a transition that would require new furniture or consulting services. Who finds the leads? Do you do that for the client, or does the client do that and then turn the leads over to you?
I always get the leads turned over to me. I don't have to, I don't do the lead generation. I do the appointment setting. So it's a little different, right?
Okay, so
I work with what I'm given, but I always to, the audience listening today, I always tell people if it's working or not. These leads are working. Yes, they are. No, they're not. And I don't need 100 years to figure that out. I could figure that out within the first week
you
of
know
making
that
calls,
within
right?
a
It's
few
the
calls.
pattern.
Right.
It's the pattern and the response rate and what people are saying. Those are cues to telling you if what you're doing is working or if you have to change course, either with the message or the leads are no good, right? It's a combination of good leads and having a good message and doing the right thing.
what I love about this, Nicole, and one of the reasons why the first thing that pops in my head is after we're finished with the interview, I got to give you a call because, I mean, a lot of people have preconceived notions of who actually wants to buy their stuff. Sometimes those notions are wrong. They're biased. They're not correct. They also have preconceived ideas of what it is about what they're selling that they think people would resonate with, why they would want to buy it. And those ideas could be wrong. The only way you really know is when the market tells you. And the only way the market tells you is when you put it out there. So if I give you a list of, let's say, 50 people that I think are good prospects for what I do or what I'm selling, and you make, let's say, 10 calls, and then you call me up and you say, Al, listen, I got to tell you something. I mean, how does that conversation go where you say, these people are not the right people, or you know what, the message I'm giving, they might be the right people, but the message isn't the right message. How do you help me fix that?
Well, first of all, I make the calls and I don't wait to do 10. I'll do a bunch of them. I'll do a bunch more. It takes about 25 to 30 calls to complete. You could complete those in about an hour, right? And that includes, you're leaving a lot of voicemails. I think it takes a few days to determine, okay, I've left a few voicemails, who's calling me back? And when they call me back, what are they saying? And when I'm speaking to somebody live, what are they saying? So a lot of this, when a company comes to me and says, here, make these calls, I always ask those questions as well in advance. Like, how many calls does it usually take for you guys to get a meeting, for your sales reps? How long does that usually take? How many does that usually take, I should say? What happens in those calls? What are typical responses? What are typical objections? As much as I can gather before I actually make the call, so that I see if what they're telling me matches up to what it is that I'm doing. And if there's a disconnect somewhere, then there's a disconnect. For me, it's very simple. I know what I'm going to say. I follow instructions. It's like I'm the puppet. The company comes to me with all the info, what to say, what to do. I do it, right? Because nobody else likes to do it, right? And then we determine, what the result is.
Okay.
So I don't know if that answers your question. I kind of took it a little,
Well,
further.
it does, but I'm going to get feedback. The cool thing about this is you're not just going to call me at the end of the week and tell me how many appointments you've made. You're also going to share with me how difficult some of those early conversations might have been. You're going to tell me who on my prospect list may not have been shouldn't have been on the list to begin with. Maybe I'm finding people in the wrong place or finding people with the wrong mindset, or maybe the script that I've written for you is not a comfortable script for them to listen to. And, I really think just getting that feedback from somebody who really knows how to sell is valuable just in terms of tuning the message. I can't tell you how many people I know. I used to work for a company. It's funny. I used to work for this big technology company, and they were huge, multi-billion-dollar company. By the way, they no longer exist. And one of the reasons why they no longer exist is a joke we used to use internally. If this company made sushi, they would call it cold, wet, dead fish. I mean, that was an awful lot of companies are so wrapped around the axle of the technical descriptions of what they offer that their scripts are very technical. And as a result, they fail to connect with people emotionally. You're going to tell me that if I try to give you a script that's boring to listen to, or that doesn't connect with people emotionally, you're going to tell me that, right?
Yeah. I mean, if I'm bored, how am I going to make the call? Like if you give me something to work from and it doesn't excite me. See, a big part of it is what I've learned doing this for different industries is that if I don't like the type of business that I'm making calls for, then guess what? I'm not motivated to do them. And then the people at the other end of the line are going, oh yeah, right? That's a problem. You need to actually believe in the business, believe in what you're selling, like what you're selling, so that you can just be yourself. A lot of this is just about being yourself and having just a natural conversation. Like, don't make it so businessy. Like, you're calling for businessy, yes, but just be yourself.
This is, you've actually triggered some memory that I have, and that is working with sales reps. My background was sales support. So generally I would be when I was a kid, this is going back a ways, I'd be the sales support representative that would go with the salesperson to answer technical questions. But the salesperson would be the person whose job was to do what you do, which is to get the conversation started. And I remember a particularly good salesperson, one of the real great ones that I worked with, said, if I can't buy it in my head to begin with, then there's no way I can sell it to anybody. So and he used to say, whenever we come up with any new product, 90% of my time is, what is it about this product that I can fall in love with? Because I can help somebody fall in love with something I love. I can't help them fall in love with something I don't love. I have to love it myself first. I have to know that that's what matters. Now, I got to figure that script that somebody gives you to get you started has to capture the emotional impact of the difference that the product or service makes in somebody's life, as well as the details of what the product or service offers.
Yeah.
And, you know, when I looked at your, I looked at your LinkedIn profile and I noticed you do coaching.
Mm-hmm.
I can hear just in what you're saying that there's a lot of value in talking to Nicole Attias about what it is I'm representing to a customer. And my point is, Nicole, if you tell me you can't fall in love with it based on what I'm saying, then I have work to do, don't I?
Yeah. Yeah. Or you're in the wrong business.
Well, and have you ever had that conversation with a client? I mean, have you ever just honestly said to somebody, listen, buddy, how are you, I think we call that carefrontation. You don't want to hurt my feelings. But
I've got two examples, one that's related and one that's a little bit different. One example is this comes through quite a bit when I get hired to do training. So it's the same for cold calling, but I'm going to use the training example because, you know, when a company hires a facilitator to teach sales, presentation skills, customer service, whatever the case may be, there's always going to be a handful of people in there that don't belong there. And it's through taking them through the training that you realize, they shouldn't be here, right? They don't want to learn. They're not into it. And then there's going to be those other handful of individuals that get better from the training. This is a common theme I've seen over the years. So, right, yes. Because people don't know what they don't know. They're just going through the motions in some cases because, oh, well, my boss told me I need to be here today, right? Versus I want to be here and I want to get better. Right there, that is your answer, right there, okay? And the other example I wanted to share with you about, you know, potentially being in the wrong business. I had a boss. I'm not going to mention names, okay? I had a boss that told
come on, I'll give you $5 to mention it.
No. What if he's watching? I can't do that, right? I had a boss who said to me, Nicole, I just don't see the fire in your eyes. I just don't see it. He actually said that to me. And my heart, and my heart dropped. My heart dropped because I'm going, what if he's right? And not because I couldn't do the job, not because I'm not smart enough, not because I can't learn something new, but because the drive, he didn't see the kind of go get 'em attitude in that particular industry. And you know what? There was truth to that. And I didn't want to admit it. A few years later, I reviewed what he said. He was right.
That's interesting. So, you know, you spent an awful lot of time about how you would help me by providing me with a cold calling service. And there are an awful lot of people out there that ought to, as soon as this interview is over, obviously, pick up the phone or go online and send you an email and get you engaged because they all need that kind of help. But you also mentioned, and I want to explore a little bit that training business, the kind of team coaching business that part of that aspect of your service. So let's explain to everybody that if I have a sales team that I feel is underperforming, I can hire you to come in and work with my salespeople. I guess you could do that virtually.
I could do that virtually, yes. I love doing face-to-face, though. Face-to-face is so much more powerful. But yes,
yeah.
But these days, people are doing a ton of webinars, and yes, I do them too. So yes, that's always an option. Where I'm working with people virtually, I like to work in small groups because then I can get to know you, right? People get lost when they're just looking at a bunch of slides going by them. I rather work with you, maybe a 3-4 person meeting, no bigger than that virtually, because I can communicate with you. I can understand you better.
That's
right.
Well, the magic in that, by the way, is that when you work with me on that basis, what you're really doing is teaching me how to light that fire in my eyes that your boss told you didn't have. I mean, that really is. I understand now, and it could be, maybe this is not what you should be selling. Maybe you can never have that fire because you just don't love this. In which case, we need to find that out. But if there's any way you could learn to love this thing or this service that you're being told to sell, my job as Nicole, the magic of Nicole Attias is that she's going to help me find that love is kind of like an infectious disease. If I fall in love with what I'm selling, I can help other people, like customers, fall in love with what I'm selling. And that emotional connection, I think an awful lot of people, especially in B2B sales, completely overlook.
Oh, yeah. It becomes too robotic, right? And there's also pressure, right? There's a lot of pressure with these sales reps, right? When we're focusing here on sales reps for the moment, they're under the gun, they need to fulfill a quota. They don't want to, they're under the gun. And I think if there's pressure placed on people like that, then one of two things happen. Either they love it and it makes them work harder, or they feel they can't do it. Right. So there's a balance, right? I understand there has to be some kind of measure. I get that. But that can also stress people out. And then that stress can come off as desperation over the phone and, right? Like, please meet with me, or they overdo it on the phones, right? They call and call and call, and they don't want to take no for an answer. So it can go the other way too.
It can go so calming me down is another part. It's really emotional management and fear management. And I mean, I can think of a bunch of reasons why people would want to call you. And we're about 5 minutes out from wrapping this interview. It's been great. And what you have to offer is exactly what I know hundreds of thousands of people who watch the Business Talk Show and listen to the program want. So really quick, Nicole, if you can tell me who the perfect client is for you in terms of size or what they do, maybe you can answer that for our audience and then tell us what's the best way to get a hold of you.
The perfect client would be a growing sales team. So a company that it could be a 10-person plus company with a growing sales team that really needs to get comfortable pushing, getting, the calls going, getting the process started. That would be ideal. And then the best way for people to reach me is, one of two ways. Email me, Nicole@prospecttowin.com. Follow me on YouTube. I think you've got the information there. And I provide a ton of content on this stuff.
That's, Nicole and I have connected on LinkedIn, NicoleAttias. That's the name you should be looking for on LinkedIn. And I guess also on Facebook for people who might be listening and not watching. I just want to make sure you have all the information that you need to reach this resource. Somebody like Nicole, actually Nicole in person, she's the person who can make the difference between an underperforming sales team and a sales team that's under-promising and over-delivering, doing the best they could possibly do for you. And I think this has been a great conversation about a difficult subject for a lot of companies. And I really appreciate you appearing with, I have to apologize, Dr. JACALYN, due to technical difficulties, has left the building. She's there. But thanks, Nicole, for joining us today. It was great interviewing you. And we'll have to have you back to give us an update someday soon.
I'd be happy to. Thanks so much, Al.
Thank you, Nicole. You take care now. And thanks, everybody, for joining us today on the Business Talk Show here on USA Global TV. On behalf of Dr. JACALYN KERBECK, your host, and my host and business partner, and somebody I can't live without, Dr. JACALYN, I'll look forward to working with you again next Wednesday on the next edition of the Business Talk Show. And thank you all for joining us today, and we'll see you again soon.